If you've been paying any attention to the Rainbow Six Extraction reveal, it appears to me that the game as of now is just simmering on the stove, ready to be served on its release date. All the ingredients are mostly cooked and the chef is putting in their final touches in order to make this dish something that they want for the audience that they think wants it. Now, not only have they shown the gameplay, they've also provided a release date. They've talked about all of the pre-order hype, bonuses to agents who are coming into the game, pre-ordering, or coming from Rainbow Six's ecosystem, and then finally they've topped it off with their plans for crossplay and cross-save on all platforms. This is huge. Anyways, welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys so much. We're going to be looking at Rainbow Six Extraction, but along the line we have to look at Rainbow Six Siege because there's some sort of a relationship between both of them that you cannot ignore. Now, if you take a step back, it appears to me that Rainbow Six Extraction is Ubisoft's new appeal to a community that had already sidestepped Rainbow Six Siege. And that will be somebody like me. The game has gone free many times, but because of the nature of the game, it doesn't necessarily appeal to a player like me, and I haven't touched the game. In fact, even some hardcore gamers who tried to get into the game found themselves in a position where they just could not compete at the top levels because they had kind of stayed way behind and the game had tracked way further than many of them. Now, if you kind of think about what this means, Rainbow Six Siege basically launched as a tactical PvP co-op shooter, and then it just grew surprisingly in popularity that other Tom Clancy franchises that were released within the same time could only wish for that kind of popularity, or I would even say recognition. The game made its entry into the esports arena, and even now Ubisoft has a whole thing called the Invitational or something like that, where they're now participating and even competing on a high level with other big esports. So this is a big deal for Rainbow Six Siege. The 7-year success that Rainbow Six Siege enjoyed should have informed everyone that Ubisoft, of all people, was going to take another stab at Rainbow Six again. I mean, it's quite obvious. Have you seen how many Assassin's Creed games Ubisoft has published? Have you seen how many Far Cry games are out there? Or is anybody not paying attention to the fact that Ubisoft is the king of sequels? Think about this, it makes a whole bunch of sense. In fact, if you go back into the Tom Clancy universe, you're going to see that Rainbow Six is one of the original Tom Clancy games that's actually been published under the flagship category of Tom Clancy action shooter games. So this is no surprise to me. On the other hand, what's more surprising is they're curating a version of this Rainbow Six game, in my opinion, for players who are not necessarily playing the Rainbow Six Siege. If you think about the marketing, they've done a good job. They've been able to extend all of the information to a lot of the audience members over the different days. On day 1, they did a teaser. Day 2, on the Ubisoft Forward event, they showed gameplay, showed a whole lot more information, and then also provided future events that they were going to be talking about. And then as of today that I'm recording this video, June 14th, they finally revealed their plans for crossplay and cross-save. Big deal. You have to think about how they've actually curated all this stuff together because they really want this game to have a wide audience appeal. Everyone on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series S or X or PS5, Stadia, Amazon's own platform, and even PC are all going to be able to play this game, and you're going to have your progress pretty much move around everywhere you're in. If you ask me, that is a huge breakthrough because I'm a Tom Clancy's Division player by myself. I can tell you that I have 3 different accounts. I wish I could have my progression just follow me anywhere I go, but this has not been the case. My progression is scattered across multiple characters on multiple accounts. So something like this, in my opinion, really does change the game, and I believe will set a new expectation from players for Ubisoft to be able to carry this over to all of their other games. Another conclusion that I can draw from this is Ubisoft is pretty much making this move to reach untapped demographics. If you think about games like Immortals Fenyx Rising, this is a game that, if you ask me, looks a lot more like what Zelda could be, and I think they were trying to reach out to those people who are not in the Nintendo ecosystem, but were already existing within the Ubisoft umbrella. You also think about their games Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. These are 3 reiterations of what the Assassin's Creed games had already been, and taken a different spin to try to reach out to the market of gamers that like games like The Witcher. Open world RPG games, third-person combat. Assassin's Creed kind of fit that model, and they could just take that entire thing, repackage it, and deliver it to audiences who already were playing games like those. So Ubisoft doesn't really care to take things to a whole new level, or at least try something, and if they fail, they just continue to go after it or refine until they get the formula correctly. So when you kind of consider all of this, why is Rainbow Six Extraction even a game? I've seen a lot of questions from the Rainbow Six community saying this game doesn't necessarily seem like a game that appeals to a lot of them because it feels like more of an expansion, but not with some of the aspects of Rainbow Six. And that's actually a valid concern. If you think about it, Rainbow Six Extraction seems to me like a PvE game that has a lot of the systems from Rainbow Six Siege. And so what's going to happen is Rainbow Six Extraction is going to attract multiple audiences of different kinds. Most Siege players will probably be buying Extraction. I'm not saying Rainbow Six Siege players are going to abandon it in totality, but there are Rainbow Six Siege players who've said, I'm not going to deal with this game. It doesn't really appeal to me. And that makes a lot of sense. Some Rainbow Six Siege players may buy it on launch, or they may buy it at a discount. It doesn't really matter. This game seems to want to place itself in the center of the entire Tom Clancy Ubisoft games universe, because we Tom Clancy folk, we're fond of just buying a Tom Clancy game even if we don't play it. I mean, if you're a Siege player or somebody who's played Rainbow Six Siege for a prolonged period of time, the chances are that you have one or two other Tom Clancy games in your library that you're yet to touch. And this is also the same for players who play The Division or players who play Ghost Recon. Many of us have other Tom Clancy games that we haven't touched, or Tom Clancy games that we play casually. And I think Ubisoft is trying to deepen the universe and build what I call some inter-franchise interaction between the Tom Clancy player base. Now, another aspect too is Tom Clancy's The Division has a huge PvE co-op player base. In my own opinion, and I know there are not a lot of statistics or numerical data to back this up, but if you play the game long enough, you'll know that there are a lot of people who prefer to play the co-op PvE content in The Division. Also with Ghost Recon, it appears to me that the PvE side of things is why a lot of players play Ghost Recon. Hence, I think Ubisoft is trying to merge these communities, or at least appeal to them, in order to develop a whole different product around, and then, as I said, deepen the universe and continue this inter-franchise interaction even much deeper. Because if you can create this entire menu of different servings, it will be very challenging for a player who likes multiple games that are within this ecosystem to look elsewhere. This is very important because there are other games that also provide these same things as well. It's not like they're doing anything unique. Games like Call of Duty, games like Battlefield that are out there. And so I think Ubisoft wants to do this kind of conglomeration where they just lock their players in. But I would say if they do it the right way, I believe that this case might be successful for them. Now, I'm not making a lot of these far-fetched hypotheses saying that they want to draw these franchises together in the void. In fact, I think if you look at the initial release of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, it'll be apparent to you that they were trying to mimic some of the aspects of The Division, but it failed. In fact, I think it failed because they were trying to mimic it too heavy-handedly. A subtle way would have been better for them. And I think Rainbow Six Extraction seems to have gotten that formula correct. And that's why many people are not even noticing exactly what they're trying to play here, other than the fact that I've actually just mentioned it in this video. They've done it in a very subtle way. They've brought the co-op aspect of the game, but now they've removed that player versus player enmity or player versus player PvP side of things that have players competing against one another, but now you're going to have players working with one another. There might still be some competitive action to the Rainbow Six Extraction, but in this case, it might be a thing where it's now teams versus other teams trying to achieve their own individual goals. To me, I think this is a very nice and neutral aspect that appeals to a wider audience of much more casual gamers, or gamers who are now approaching a much more advanced stage in their lives that they don't have a lot of the time to grind for all of that hardcore aspect of gaming. Those people who are playing Rainbow Six Siege on day one have grown almost 8 years older. And that, in my opinion, is basically almost a difference between a whole decade and different phases of a person's life. I mean, if you were 32 when Rainbow Six Siege was released, you are more than likely going to be 40 years old by the time Extraction comes out. You're probably not going to have a lot of patience for dealing with the things that you dealt with on the release of Rainbow Six Siege, so Extraction might be a game that appeals to you. And so I think this is what Ubisoft is trying to do, make different games that appeals to different gamers, but at least keep them within the same universe, and so from time to time, people could hop around and enjoy different aspects of the different games. Now, there's something I gotta say before I end this video. I have some audience members who know that I'm not a fan of first-person games. This is true. You're probably wondering, why am I even talking about a Rainbow Six game because it's an FPS game? But you have to hear me out on this one. There have been a few FPS games. If you've been here on the channel for a long time, they've convinced me that you can actually make a good game regardless of it being a third-person game or a first-person game. The prime examples of these are Metro Exodus and Far Cry 4. Some of you may or may not know these are two of my favorite games, and I'm now a firm proponent that even though a player may have a preference, if you make a solid game, you're able to attract players from a broader audience. If Rainbow Six Extraction is a solid game, a lot of gamers will enjoy it. Until then, we're just gonna have to wait to see what Ubisoft comes up with. Ghost Recon tried this broader appeal and failed. Extraction might fail or it might succeed, depending on how the developers have structured their game. But from what I'm seeing, if the game comes out, it has the fidelity that a game should have, it has the quality that a game should have, it has a support that Ubisoft is known to give. I don't see anything that stops this game from being an okay game. Now, okay game being the measure, Ubisoft is good at making okay games. Volume doesn't necessarily mean the best of quality, but again, it doesn't mean that the quality also diminishes with Ubisoft, because they have a way that they've spread out a lot of their game production across multiple studios, so each studio is able to at least do what they're doing, either in an exceptional sense or at least under the umbrella of an Ubisoft game at the bare minimum. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you guys so much. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section about what you think on Rainbow Six Extraction. If you're a Siege player, let me hear your thoughts as well. I'm kind of new to the Rainbow Six thing. The game has been on my Ubisoft account for years and I haven't touched it, but I think Extraction might be the game that I do play if you were to ask me, all things being considered. Talk to you guys soon. Peace out.